Hi everyone, I'm talking to you from one of Guelph Museum's feature exhibitions, Memory Cycle Re-Sonified Artifacts. In a moment, we'll be taking a look around this exhibition, which is all about how sound, history, and art can come together to make a ghostly historical experience. But first, to be able to understand how this exhibition works, we've got to talk a little bit about how sound works. As you might know, sound is made by vibrations and then travels as waves through the air to reach your ear, where, if you're a hearing person, your brain translates those vibrations into something that we can understand as sound. Sound is usually made by vibrations that are too fast for us to see, but here's a slowed down demonstration of what it would look like if we could see it. Something vibrates, like my hand on this slinky, and it disturbs the air molecules around it. Those air molecules bump into the ones near them and bump into the ones near them, and that pattern continues until they run out of energy to keep bumping into the next ones. Here, each coil of the slinky is acting like an air molecule. The whole thing is moving simply because I moved my hand here at the end of the slinky, with each coil bumping into the next. You actually all have a way to test out the idea that sound is made through vibrations. Rest your hand gently on your neck, just under your chin, and then hum for a second. Do you feel a buzzing feeling? That's made by your vocal cords vibrating really quickly in order to make sound. Now let's see how these vibrations travel as waves through the air. We have this speaker here, as well as a bowl with some plastic wrap stretched over it and some glitter on top of the plastic wrap. If we place the speaker on top of the bowl, we can see the glitter moving around.
What a great pleasure it is to be able to welcome you to Guelph.
This happens because the whole speaker is vibrating to make sound. But what if we put the bowl with the plastic wrap and glitter next to the speaker so that it's not physically touching the speaker?
Lady or gentlemen, what a great pleasure it is to be able to welcome you to Guelph.
The glitter still moves, though not as strongly. That's because the vibrations of the speaker are bumping the air molecules around it, and those air molecules are bumping into the glitter. Fun fact, this wouldn't work in space. In fact, sound doesn't travel in space at all. Space is a vacuum, which means there's literally no matter in it, no molecules of any kind, so vibrations don't have anything to bump into. On the other hand, sound travels faster through water than it does through air, because water is denser than air. That means that its molecules are closer together. Because they're closer together, they don't have as far to travel when bumping into each other, so they bump into each other more quickly than air molecules do. And that means that the sound travels faster. Now that we've got a bit of a grasp on how sound works, let's take a look at this exhibition. It's called Memory Cycle Re-Sonified Artifacts. Re-Sonification is based on the sound science that we've been talking about, so let's break it down. First of all, sonification is something that we've already looked at during this program. Remember the NASA videos that turned a visual image into something that we could understand through sound rather than sight? That's an example of sonification. Sonification is simply using sounds to represent data. Another example that you might be familiar with are the sounds that you might hear if you were at a hospital. If someone's attached to a heart monitor, the beating of their heart is going to be represented by a steady beeping sound. And if those sounds change, then the doctors know that something's gone wrong. So sonification can actually be quite a useful tool. So that's sonification, but what's re-sonification? Remember how sound travels through the air as vibrations? It can travel through anything that's made of matter, but the type and shape of that matter will affect how that sound travels. When you re-sonify an object, you play a sound directly into that object and then capture the sound that is made by the vibrations as they travel through that object. This becomes a form of sonification. Just like how we can use sound to represent visual data, like an image of space, or data about movement, like the beating of a heart, this uses sound to represent physical data. The vibrations that are created by sound moving through an object are going to be different than the vibrations that would be created by that same sound moving through a different object. So it's like you end up with a sound version of that object. That was all a little technical, so let's look at this exhibition for an example of this in action. In Memory Cycle, a sound artist named Gordon Monahan has recorded his own versions of Victorian music from the 1800s, and played them through little transducers that he's attached to historical artifacts from the same time period, like this transducer here on this artifact. Little microphones on each artifact pick up the vibrations that travel through the artifacts. Then the music, which has been slightly changed by the process of having its vibrations sent through these objects, gets cycled back into a computer program. This computer program mixes that version of the music with the 3 other versions of the music, which have also traveled through the other artifacts, along with the original version of the music. Then the final step is to play that music through speakers in the 4 keyboard instruments in this exhibition. The shape of those instruments will also affect the sound of the music. Gordon Monahan wanted to use these old instruments for this project because they actually come from the time period when this type of music was first recorded. He thinks it's different to hear music recorded on modern instruments than it is to hear music that's vibrating through the exact same instruments that would have once played this kind of music. It becomes a more realistic historical experience. And he wanted to play the music through these other 4 historical artifacts to reconnect them with the sounds that they might have heard before. So if these artifacts had been in buildings where this music was played, way back when they were first being used, they would have had the same vibrations traveling through them. This is a way of bringing them back to life for a little while. So we've had the music off in this exhibition while I've been talking so you can hear me more clearly, but without further ado, I'm going to show you a video of what it looks like and sounds like when you're in this exhibition. If this all still feels a little abstract, I'll show you an experiment that you can do at home or in your classroom to try out part of the re-sonification process yourself. All you need is a metal slinky like this and a couple different sizes of cup, can, or tub. When you bounce a slinky up and down, it vibrates, which makes a little bit of noise, but not a whole lot, like this. Now, if you attach a slinky to a styrofoam cup, either by poking a hole through the bottom or even just wrapping it around the bottom, like this, and then bounce it up and down again, it'll make way more noise. In fact, this is actually almost identical to how they made the blaster sounds in the original Star Wars movies. The reason the sound changes so much when you attach the slinky to the styrofoam cup is that the slinky's vibrations make the cup vibrate, and when the cup vibrates, that makes the air molecules inside and outside of the cup vibrate. So instead of just the air molecules around the slinky vibrating, you've suddenly got lots more vibrations, and that means a lot more sound. A cup is especially effective for this because the vibrations bounce back and forth inside the cup instead of just traveling away in one direction. Now, what do you think would happen if we tried this with a bigger cup, or one made out of a completely different material? Let's try it with this plastic jug. It's a completely different sound because the vibrations have a different distance to travel inside the jug, and because they bounce differently off the insides of the hard plastic than they would off a softer surface like the styrofoam cup. So you can see this is kind of like re-sonifying an object. We are playing sounds through an object and seeing how the sound changes depending on what type of object we're playing it through. You can try this yourself with a metal slinky and different sizes of styrofoam, paper, plastic, or tin cups. How do you think the sounds will change with different materials and different sizes? What would happen if you tried attaching the slinky to something totally different, like a piece of paper? It's up to you to try this out.